Hello Fairy friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so happy to be joining you again today on the Reverse Confetti YouTube channel. I am back with yet another Pride card, but it doesn't have to be one. You can color these lines however you want, and it will always be cute because they're so adorable. This is from the Love Wins stamp set and I'm stamping these onto watercolor cardstock, some images. I made a couple of cards with these, so I'm only going to show you how I colored the lions today. And yeah, I'm stamping these in Versafine Onyx Black onto watercolor cardstock, and then I am going to emboss these with clear gloss embossing powder. So I've been on a real kick with some Pride cards since this stamp set came out, but I promise I will be back with something completely different next week. And yeah, for now you can enjoy this very queer, gay card. I love it. I'm going to heat set the embossing powder with my heat gun, and then I can start watercoloring these. Now for this, I'm using my Caron brush markers, which make it really easy to watercolor, but I find the browns in the set are a little challenging to use for critters. They are perfect for florals because they have a green undertone, but for critters, they usually look a little weird. So I like to put down some yellow first. This is a really creamy colored yellow. I think technically it's a light orange. And that will give me a warmer base for my browns later. And I'm coloring the manes of these lions in pride flags. This is a bi-pride flag, and I am going to use the gay pride flag for the other lion. Just to show a couple of different color inspirations. I really love the colors of the pride flags, so I've been using them a lot lately. I am, like I said, layering on some brown over that creamy colored yellow. This is the best brown in the set, in my opinion. It is the warmest one, and it's a little light, so it's not the best to add a ton of depth, so I keep everything else very, very light. So it doesn't, there's still quite a bit of contrast in the coloring. For the colorful manes, I am not worrying too much about shading. I am going to swatch out my colors like you see me do here to see if they're a close match to the colors of the pride flag I want to replicate. They're not perfect, so I am going to mix some colors together to create a better shade to replicate the shades of the pride flag, but the blues are quite close, so I'm just layering those on. And I think this flag has 7 colors including the white, so it's quite a lot to fit on there. And the teal I am layering on now is a little bit too blue, so I am adding in some green to dull it down a little bit to match the color of the flag a little bit better. And in general, if I really want a close color match to something, whether that's a pride flag or a piece of cardstock, colored cardstock that I used in the rest of my card, I do prefer using watercolors or watercolor markers over regular markers because it's just easier to mix colors with a water-based medium, in my opinion, than with alcohol markers. So that's usually the reason why I would go for watercolors instead of markers. So I can really choose my colors and make my own if I have to. For my background, I'm going for a very punchy purple. This is, I don't use my Distress Oxides enough, but this is Wilted Violet. So I just blended that in a circle, splattered on some water, and then I die cut the Reverse Confetti circle element die from this. I am just going to glue this onto a piece of copy paper because I want to do some die cut inlay. So this copy paper is just going to give me a base to lay in my pieces of that circle element because I also die cut it from this really trippy holographic cardstock. And it's so shiny and lovely. It's not super visible on the video quite yet, but I'll show it up in the end how fun this is. So I love doing die cut inlay with specialty cardstock like this because it just brings a punch to your card, and it's still quite subtle because the pieces are so small, so it's not going to overtake your entire design. But once it's on there, it's just so stunning. I just put some glue down. This is any liquid adhesive will work for this, but this happens to be Barely Art Precision Craft glue if you're curious. It's not the strongest glue out there, but it does the trick of gluing paper to paper, which is all we need here. And then I use my jewel picker to pick up all those tiny pieces and inlay them in the tiny, tiny holes. I do use the pokey end of it to really press those pieces in there and make sure they adhere down properly. And that's it. This is a really easy way to do die cut inlay. It goes really quickly. If you lay those pieces out like I did on my desk before starting to do the actual inlay. It's a lot easier once you have all the pieces sorted out to not have to find which piece fits where. I die cut this inlaid piece with just a rectangle die, and that's going to be my background. So I did prop that up on some cardboard to add some dimension to it. I love adding dimension to my cards. I probably add too much because the postage is quite a bit more, but I think it's worth it. I'm also putting some foam tape on these lions, and that is going to finish off my card. I'm just going to adhere them right in the center of that trippy circle, and that's it. A really, really bright and happy card for a happy couple for Pride Month. I love the die cut inlay on this. It's such a fun technique. It's always very relaxing to do, I find, especially with a die like this. The pieces are quite small, but you don't have to inlay the pieces correctly. I mean, I don't have to figure out which circle goes where. They're all different sizes, and it's quite easy to do. So this is a really fun technique for you to use on any of your cards to give a fun background, and it draws attention to the focal point perfectly with this die. Like I said, I colored these lions quite queer, but you really don't have to. You can just color them in really cutesy and adorable, and they will be perfect for any occasion. I promise I'll be back with a very different card next week, and I hope to see you then. So subscribe to this channel. There are quite a few people posting videos on this now. I'm very happy to not be alone anymore. There's so much inspiration, and I hope you check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.